I invite Dr. D. Ramamurthy, who's the past president of AIOS and chairman of the Eye Foundation, Coimbatore, who's going to give a talk on being more close to real time. And following this talk, I think we'll take questions which have come at all platforms.
Thank you so much, Dr. Namrata, for the kind introduction, and thank you, Alcon, for putting this together. So I'm going to build upon what Satish already explained to us. As a financial disclosure to this particular talk, I'm a consultant to Alcon. Basically, the Centurion gave us an entirely new experience as far as phacoemulsification is concerned. This was the first system which took away the gravity-led fluidics and gave us a bag of BSS that could be placed between compression plates that were essentially controlled by the bag-based sensors, giving us an explicit control as far as the amount of fluid that went into the anterior chamber is concerned. It also had the 7-roller pump so that there was a continuous contact of the aspiration tubing to the 7 rollers, and because of which there was not a pulsatized flow, but a uniform continuous aspiration of the fluid. Secondly, we also had these optical pressure sensors, both for the aspiration as well as the irrigation, and a bag-based sensor, which communicated to each other very well, and because of which we could go on to higher levels of performance. Then this simple innovation where the outside tubing diameter was not changed, but the aspiration tubing went on to entirely a different level of compliance, because of which it could not collapse. And this again helped us to mitigate surge quite significantly. Now, the icing on the cake on already a robust platform that we have today is Active Sentry. In the next few minutes, I'm going to be dealing with what exactly this particular addition offers to us. Satish did talk about it, but looking at it purely from a clinical standpoint, because I would like to allude to what I really understood before going on to the videos. Basically, what's the simple addition that has been made is at the proximal end of the phaco probe, we have a irrigation sensor that has been incorporated, which is because of its proximity to the needle, which does the phacoemulsification, senses the fluctuations in the intraocular pressure. This is basically a irrigation pressure sensor that has been additionally added to the already pre-existing 3 sensors, and it gives us a much better control and maintains stability across varied vacuum levels. These are the 3, when we talk about Active Sentry, these are the 3 advantages that we get. One is active surge mitigation, leakage compensation, and automatic patient level, eye level recognition. The most important factor is, of course, the surge mitigation. As we all know, surge essentially happens when a nucleus element is impinging onto the phaco tip, and it gets evacuated and there is sudden aspiration that occurs. This vacuum that builds inside the aspiration tubing, and because of it, there is a sudden sucking in of the fluid, and the chamber collapses. The cornea as well as the posterior capsule move towards each other. So when we are especially operating on high levels of aspiration vacuum, there is greater propensity for this to happen. Essentially, what the quick valve technology does is to cause a slight movement of this valve so that a certain amount of fluid is injected into the aspiration tubing. So the vacuum level that builds up in the aspiration tubing is mitigated, and thus the fluid that's sucked out of the anterior chamber is somewhat lessened. It is not a large amount of fluid that is moving inside, which would result in a loss of contact or loss of the nucleus piece being sucked onto the phaco needle, but just enough amount of fluid going into the aspiration tubing so that fluid is not aspirated from the anterior chamber, but the vacuum that is built up in the tubing is compensated by the fluid which is stored in the FMS package as such. Now, the other factor is basically it not only the fluid getting injected into the aspiration tubing, but also the fact that these impulses are also conveyed onto the bag-based sensors, which squeezes the bag, so that a certain amount of irrigation fluid that goes in, mitigating the surge as such. The patient eye level has already been alluded to. Basically, when you place the patient at a certain level, it assumes that the eye of the patient and the cassette is at the same level. Often I find that in my clinical situation, it's about 5 centimeters lower. That is necessary to feed onto the machine. But now, because of the automated patient eye level detection, the sensor automatically recognizes the eye level and maintains the consistent targeted intraocular pressure. Even then, it's a good idea to feed this in, because when you are doing irrigation aspiration, this is not something that's being taken into consideration. We also know that fluid is taken out of the chamber, not only because from the aspiration tubing, also because the outflow of fluid through the main incision as well as the side ports. It was a 2.2 millimeter incision I used for a long time, but then I shifted over to a 2.4 millimeter incision, because of which there is definitely going to be a certain amount of leakage that is happening. And this sensor, the additional irrigation sensor that's incorporated in the instrument, automatically senses this difference in the flow and increases the irrigation flow to keep the IOP consistent. It is not as if it's dynamically adjusting, but averages out the kind of outflow that is happening at the level of the incision and compensates for that quite adequately. Now, going on to certain videos where I've incorporated the active sentry. This is a simple case of a soft cataract, and you will find that it's already been lasered. What a sextant has been created, and you can see those capsular rexes, which is being picked up with the by the down-up technique. And what I do in these cases is essentially hydrate through the central incision. I find that when I do this, the nucleus segments automatically separates, and there's hardly any chopping that is necessary, especially in these soft cataracts. It's a big help to have this nucleus completely segmented into small pieces. Please look at this active sentry over here. Every time the nucleus piece is going to abut onto my onto the phaco needle and create closure, that's when the active sentry mitigation does happen. And you can see that the whole procedure proceeds in a very controlled manner. This is one of my initial cases. You see that I have kept the IOP at 60 millimeters, though nowadays I've shifted on to almost consistently at 30 millimeters. But the vacuum is at 600, the aspiration is at 34, and you find that there is absolutely no fluctuation as far as the anterior chamber is concerned. More importantly, you find that I kept the CD 0.00. Absolutely no phaco power has been used. Please remember that I'll allude to this factor. Basically, this shows the active sentry mitigation has happened 14 times. That is, there has been a tendency for a surge even to happen almost 14 times during this surgery. Fairly simple case where the CD is 0 and the active sentry mitigation has kicked in almost 14 times to ensure that the entire procedure is happening smoothly. Going on to a different scenario, you can see a high myope with post-retinal detachment requiring a +1 diopter lens. And obviously here my concern is the deep chamber that I'm going to be dealing with. That's the reason that though I most often keep my intraocular pressure at 30, in this particular case, I've decided to go on to 20 millimeters. And the vacuum that I would be using is 600 and the aspiration of 34. And the IOP ramp is fast because the IOP as such is quite small. And when we go on to the nucleus chopping, you can see that my probe is almost vertically oriented simply because the anterior chamber is quite deep, in spite of the intraocular pressure being kept at 20, which equates to just about a 28 centimeters as far as the bottle height is concerned. You can see some amount of striae that's happening on the cornea. This is because of the soft globe in which I'm operating. Obviously, that's the reason I do not keep this at 20 in my regular cases. But having said that, in this particular case, because of the anterior chamber depth was almost 3.8 millimeters, I decided to opt for a extremely low intraocular pressure, which allows me to ensure that the anterior chamber is not too deep and allows the procedure to happen in a more controlled manner. You can see because the fluidics that we are using, and another important factor that I need to mention that is when I do the chopping is essentially just the longitudinal power that I use, which I believe gives me better holdability. But when I do the fragment evacuation, it's only torsional phaco that I use, which I believe gives me more followability and optimizes the phaco setting. You can see that for a fairly dense cataract, obviously a grade 3 cataract, The CD is just about 7.53. I think it goes on to a little higher. And there's hardly any movement of the phaco tip that's necessary. And and you can see that the kind of stability of the anterior chamber that's achieved by this integration of these specific technologies. And that's the nucleus that's completely removed. And you can subsequently an intraocular lens is injected, and because a three-piece lens is what goes in, I need to enlarge the incision from the initial 2.4 millimeters to about 2.8 millimeters. And you can see the ethibond suture of the scleral buckle that has been placed. There's a +1 diopter three-piece lens that's injected, and that's the closure of the incision. You see this in this particular case compared to 14 actuations earlier, it's just been actuated once. So though it felt that the case is a little more difficult, highly myopic eye, the ASM actuation happened only once. Going on to another situation, a small pupil, an 8-year-old who's been on Urimax for quite some time, IFIS was a definite possibility. In this case, again, I go ahead and do a capsulorhexis. Subsequently, I keep the vacuum as 600, IOP as 30, and aspiration flow rate of 34. And essentially, it's only longitudinal phaco that's happening now. I find that that gives me a good purchase when I buzz the phaco tip inside the meat of the nucleus. I'm able to, you can see the stability of the anterior chamber that is there right through. The reason I alluded to the other advantage of the Centurion system is that it's not just the active century that alone comes into play, but the various other features that are incorporated on this, in which the active century is incorporated, is an add-on. And basically, once the nucleus is chopped, some segments are brought in. All along, it's a fairly shallow anterior chamber that I have. So I try to keep the plane of phacoemulsification as posteriorly as possible. The integration of these specific technology allows me the confidence to go closer to the posterior capsule and thus finish off the surgery. Please remember here, the ASM activation has been only 0. That's that in the sense that it has not kicked in even once. I would allude to these specific figures at the end of these video presentations. This is a posterior last years in a hard cataract scenario. Basically, this is a recording from the this is we do not have a video overlay in this particular case because this particular recording system did not have it. But please look at the CDE, which is there from the very on. In this hard nucleus, basically, I was using 650 millimeters of mercury as aspiration, and the power was about 70% on the linear mode, and subsequently the aspiration flow rate was 40 millimeters. The vacuum was at 650, and you can see the controlled manner in which I am able to chop the nucleus, and the amount of phaco power that's needed in these steps is quite minimal. So in this case, again, the fact that the active century, you do not see the icon there, but it's very much operational, gives me the confidence that in case there is a surge that comes up, the machine as a whole is in a position to handle this. And subsequently, you see the nucleus evacuation that's taking place. It's not that I'm constantly looking at the CD, and I also feel that an adequate amount of power has to be used so as to evacuate the nucleus in an efficient manner. But the fluidics that's being used allows you to reduce the amount of energy that's essentially necessary for evacuating a reasonably hard cataract like this. And you find that even with just about something beyond a 8 CD, I'm able to evacuate this nucleus as a whole. I think it's not only the initial integration of the laser platform, but also the fact that it was a fairly advanced system that allowed me to use this particular platform, and you do the nucleus emulsification in a very efficient manner. Here, the ASM actually kicked in 4 times. Let me take you through another scenario, basically where there is a complication that occurs, where at the end of this rhexis, I have a rhexis runoff, and you can see this rhexis runoff occurring in this region over here. Obviously, here I am concerned about a wraparound that could possibly occur. Here again, I keep the IOP at 30, vacuum at around 550, aspiration at around 34. And then subsequently here, I'm going to be doing a stop and chop, basically creating a deep groove in the center. subsequently rotating the nucleus by 90 degrees and split the nucleus using 2 Sinskey hooks so that the orientation of the forces that I exert on the nucleus is not in the direction of the rhexis runoff. So then I shift on to nucleus evacuation mode, and I'm cognizant of the fact that the anterior chamber has to be formed right through the procedure. And then there is the nucleus that you can see that even here, I keep the intraocular pressure at 30. And even though there's a rhexis runoff, I'm able to achieve controlled nucleus emulsification. And you can see here that the ASM has kicked in about 3 times. The last of my videos, something very similar to the first video that I showed, a very soft cataract already pre-treated with the laser. That's the opening of the laser arcuate keratotomies, which I do as the first step. I usually create my incisions with the using a knife in spite of the laser platform. And you can see in this case again, it's a 60 IOP. Sometimes I resort to 30. The vacuum itself is used at 550 and the aspiration is 30. It's a very soft cataract. Here again, you would find that the it's a CDE is 0. So no phacopower has been used. And it's obviously a fairly simple cataract. Of course, soft cataracts need not always be very simple to operate. And in this case, you can find that the ASM has been actuated 22 times. This was really contrary to what I thought when the active sentry was given to me. In the first and the last case where the cataract was the nucleus very soft, those are the cases where the ASM has been activated almost 22 and 14 times. In a small pupil situation where the cataract was grade 3 to grade 4, it got activated 0 times and just about 5 to 6 times in the reasonably hard cataract. This led me to understand a little better as to how exactly this active sentry functions. In the sense, it's something like the automatic braking system that you have with some of the advanced cars. And whenever maybe you are traveling on a highway at 240 kilometers per hour, you come very close to a truck, the automatic braking system kicks in and the car is brought to a halt. But this is not something that might happen quite often. But if you are driving at just 30 kilometers per hour in a busy road, even a pedestrian or a cyclist coming close to you might activate this automatic braking system. I think the active sentry works something similar to that and depends on the surgical technique, depends on the settings that you use. Basically, in a hard cataract situation, where it might be very advantageous to have this active sentry mitigation being available, because you're using adequate power, the phacotip is angulated, this complete closure is not happening, maybe the ASM doesn't kick in very often. But in these cases of soft cataract where I'm not using any phacopower at all, and the nucleus material is just being sucked in, maybe the nucleus, the closure of the needle is happening quite adequately, and that's the reason there's a need for surge mitigation quite often. That's how the ASM helps. And obviously, we have to understand this system quite significantly going forward. And I believe this is an additional feature that has been added on to an already robust system. This is the last of my slides, and this is the difference that Active Sentry has brought on to my settings. You can see this pre-Active Sentry. Mind you, these are not settings that is etched in stone. Obviously, this case changes from case to case, from surgeon to surgeon. But for a same surgeon, for similar kind of cataract, from 48, I can go on to an intraocular pressure of 30, from increase in the vacuum from 450 to 600, increasing my aspiration flow rate from 36 to 45. And you can also see that the PEL, which was set at -5, now I shift on to auto mode because the instrument itself is capable of taking care of it, apart from the leakage from the incision that takes place. And what does it translate to as far as the patient outcomes is concerned? Is that your CDE goes down for 5.24, 3.292 or something, which allows you to make the entire cataract evacuation, nucleus evacuation, more based upon fluidics, which translates to lesser amount of energy, more control, more fluctuation in the lesser fluctuations in the anterior chamber, resulting in a post-operative day 1 clearer cornea. Thank you so much for your kind attention.